Was everybody in the bathroom yet? What do you Okay, here's some footsteps. They can turn it over themselves. So we introduce the drill instructors. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll begin with introductions. And for those of you that are with us virtually, you'll be able to ask any questions you may have in the chat. And then students, parents, as we're going through our presentation this evening, you're welcome to ask any questions you may have. At the end, we'll have opportunity for questions. And then we'll also talk about the orientation day right before school starts on August 25th, where you'll have an opportunity to actually tour the academy and see the facility. So if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself, Captain.
Hey, good morning. Well, first of all, Sean Caraza is our moderator. I live in Loudoun County, Montgomery County Public Schools, and he'll do more of an introduction. My name's Captain Dan Schaefer. I'm assigned here to the Training Academy. Been here for several years. Been in the fire department pretty much most of my adult life since I was about his age. And then over here, we've got Captain Joe Hayunga. Introduce yourself, Joe.
My name is Captain Joe Hayunga, and I'm the EMTB Program Coordinator here at the Training Academy.
I'm presently assigned to the ALS, which is the Advanced Life Support, the paramedic program. So we work together, and the moderator, the program manager, and the lead instructor will come out of Joe's shop, and they pick pretty solid people that Joe and I both have many children, and these are people that we would want around our kids.
Okay. And for those of you that are joining us virtually, we have a link on the very first slide here. If you just simply click on that link, you can sign in. For those of you that have a 3x5 card, you're welcome to go ahead and write your name, student ID number down, and you can write any questions you may have on the back of that 3x5 card as well. So I'm Sean Caraza. I'm the supervisor for work-based learning. I've been with Montgomery County for over 20 years now. Prior to coming to central office, I had an opportunity to be principal at Thomas Edison High School of Technology, and I had an opportunity to work with every single one of our high schools. And so when you think about the career and technical education programs we have in Montgomery County, we have a number of programs that students are able to choose from. And the important part is you have an opportunity to look at what your choices are. You have an opportunity to experience those opportunities and see, is this what you want to do for a career? Is this going to help guide you once you graduate high school? And this particular opportunity here is in partnership with Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services. So I've been working closely with Chief Sanford to restart the Fire Academy. For the past 2 school years with COVID and the impact, when we were in a virtual environment, fire and rescue is not a career that you can be in virtually, so to speak. As a first responder, you're out in the field, and you're responding to calls and you're helping people in need. And so we're at a place now, we're doing a hybrid format this evening, but I think that's part of our new normal. I think we recognize that the technology is there and we want to be able to continue to use it and create opportunities. One of the unique parts about the cadet program, though, is the entire program, the courses, it's all going to be in person right here at the academy. Okay? And this evening, our goals and outcomes, we want to make sure that you're aware, you're clear as to what the program expectations are, what some of the outcomes are, and also be clear that you're going to be in real-world environment situations. That's one of the parts, I think, of the cadet program that is different from a lot of our programs in MCPS, is typically whether you're at the high school with your IT, computer science, or engineering class, or let's say you decided to go to Edison for a year or two, you're working in that space with the classroom teacher. It's usually in a lab environment. Here, it's real. You're out in the field. You're responding to calls, and you're working toward earning an industry certification that can be used if you want to go into a career in firefighting. And I'll let both Captain Schaefer and Captain Ayunga go ahead and elaborate a little bit more on that part of it.
So I think Sean hit it right on the head. You're operating in a real-world environment, and there's a lot of great positives that come with that. It's part of what makes it exciting is being out there in the firehouse, riding on the ambulance, interacting with these calls. But it's also really important to understand as you're going into this that you are going to be operating in that environment where there is much less control than in other school environments that you've been in. You're going to see live patients. You're going to see sick people. You're going to see very injured people. And so you need to go into this program with the understanding that these are the things that you're going to come across. Not only are we going to be coming across this in how we treat people, but we will provide a safe environment for your child to learn and grow in to the extent that we can. The dangers that we face within a firehouse scenario are going to be the same for your child as they are going to be for us operating as firefighters and EMTs within that firehouse. When we respond to calls, we're going to be, responding to calls in traffic on the side of 270. We're going to be responding to calls where patients, may have some kind of communicable disease, and we'll teach them how to prepare themselves and protect themselves before they get there. But we also have to understand and be aware that that is the environment that we're going to be working in. So really just a key point that we want to make sure that both the students and the parents understand as we're getting ready to start this program is this is an amazing opportunity. It's a fantastic learning environment, but it's also one where there are going to be parameters that are not going to be able to be 100% controlled. And so that both the student and the parent are prepared for that, right? As Sean said, it's not like going to some of the other CTE programs where, you're practicing on a computer program or you're talking about the theory and not actually practicing the practice. For this program, you will be interacting in the live environment that we all operate in as firefighters and EMTs. Captain Schaefer?
So well put. Thanks for that. So long ago, somebody said these words to me when I was about your age, and it's, I'm here for you, you're here for me, and we're here for them. So simple mantras like that. This is what this is really about, right? So, I'm here for Joe, he's here for me, we're here for you. And to the extent that you're interested, we'd like you to learn how to be a part of that too. It can be a fraught environment to work in. It can be dangerous. It can be emotionally troubling. So to set everybody's expectations, remember, parents, we're here for you, and parents, you need to be here for us too. So to the extent that you're a young person, your student, your young potential EMTB, potentially firefighter, potentially the next person, right, is experiencing things, we try to surveil that amongst our workforce, and Joe looks out for me, and I look out for him, and we talk a lot, right? But remember that once your students go home, we don't see them until the next time they come to school, right? So as important as it is for us to work to make sure that we're creating as controllable environment as we can for your students when they're with us, and for your young sisters and brothers who are now coming into our fold, what we also ask of the parents is we need to make sure you're surveilling them too. You know your kids better than we do, right? And sometimes I have telekinesis, so this falls right out. We need you guys to communicate with us too, with the program directors, with the lead instructors. These communication loops, especially nowadays, people are coming out of a tough time. These occult things can come out of people's emotions, and it's absolutely okay. But what we have to do is talk during this. So we always try to debrief, we try to hot wash things, and but the thing is, and many of you in this room have probably experienced this too, you experience something in the moment, and then hours, days, weeks sometimes go by, and they don't really manifest right away. And we might see some of it, but if you see it at home, it's a really good opportunity to start to triage that kind of stuff. And again, I'm here for you, you're here for me, and we are here for all of them. What we were we didn't expect to be here tonight, but one of the things I really like about this is we need to re-engage our community. What a great way to do it, right? These are the next people. You guys are the next people in some walk of life in our county, in our state, in our country, someplace, right? The fact that you're already considering stepping into this kind of role is a testament to the durability of our community, that we're actually coming back together. But to Captain Hayanga's point, we entered the fire service very young. It was a different environment then, right? Maybe a little more blunt, a little more brutal. Things, the edges are starting to round over on some of this stuff, but we will look out for your kids, but we also need you to help be sentinels in that, right? And we don't also expect all of you to be able to detect all that. So what we would ask from parents is the same thing that you ask for in a brick and mortar school is communicate, right? Communicate. And we can't go wrong by talking. But when you see stuff, some people are going to be more resilient than others, but I just want to set your expectations that this is the real thing. There will be real things happening, and the emotions are real. Our kids, and you are our kids, right, are going to grow. They're going to take on experience, increasingly important roles wherever they go, whether they stay in fire rescue or they go into business, they go to college, and they're going to experience all kinds of things. Let's let them experience it with us, and to the extent that you guys see something happening, we may be also kind of apt to shepherd some people through those dialogues. So if you're seeing stuff at home that you think has a nexus to things that are happening here, reach out. Fair enough? That's all I had.
Thank you both for sharing that. And also, too, I want to remind students about cell phone usage and social media. When I was principal at Edison, I had a Twitter account, and when I would go out to the student built house or down in the automotive lab or up in the medical area, we could tweet out pictures of what students were engaged in and what they were learning. Well, something that I think we all need to be aware of is that you are in a situation now where you're doing two things. You're representing Montgomery County Public Schools, and you're representing Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. So when you have that uniform on and you're out in the field, you have to follow the same expectations as professionals in that field. And under no circumstance can you take a picture of a situation or an individual that's in crisis or in dire need of your help. And you cannot video it either and put it out in social media. There are federal laws in place that protect individuals that are in need of your help. And so the last thing we want to do is put you or anybody else in a bad situation with social media. So under no circumstances should you be using or taking pictures with your cell phone. Okay, so I know that it's the world we live in, and maybe as a citizen you might take a picture or video if you're in a situation, but when you put that uniform on, it's real, and you are representing Montgomery County Fire and Rescue.
Can I add one thing to that?
Sure.
When you are out there, remember that you're in public spaces, and the world is legally entitled to videotape you whenever the world wants to. When you're in a uniform, however, your job is first and foremost patient advocacy. Okay? Patient advocacy, peer advocacy. So what your job is, even as a recruit or as a cadet, is to work to foster that environment so that you can help take care of somebody. Okay? You'll see people on bad days, and you'll see people very vulnerable, and you'll see them compromised, and every so often you'll be in a position where you can authentically help. And most of the stuff we do some interventions, right? We correct airways. We can help stop people from bleeding to death. We can do that kind of things. But most of the time, When you're really helping them, it's social work, friends. So riding down the street in an ambulance can be fun. After a while, you'll probably want to turn the sirens off. If you don't hear them again, that's okay. But remember that the devices you have or the opportunities you have to be to videotape, don't videotape. Just absolve yourself of having it with you. If your parents need to get a hold of you, they can go through your commanding officer, right? Nobody here is old enough yet to have been in the military, but they go through your commanding officer. And we'll know where you are, when you are, and why you are, and we'll communicate that to your parents. So parents, if there is an issue, you wouldn't call your kid. You'd call their CO or the program director or lead instructor, and they're always available, and they'll get a hold of them. So while they're here, they're under the umbrella of our care and protection. We treat them like our sisters and brothers and our kids, right, because they're not quite adults yet. But if we take that out of the equation.
Okay. And so as this program restarts, it's going to be a 2-year program. So with Career and Technical Education and MCPS, you have the opportunity to choose, do I do 2 years of a world language, or do I do a CTE program of study? Well, the Fire Science Academy is set up as a 2-year program of study. If you're a junior currently this year, you'll have an opportunity to take the EMT certification. Seniors will do the same. And then when you transition to your senior year, that's when you'll have an opportunity to do Fire Science 1 and 2, which would allow you to complete the program. Now, we do have students that do both the world language and the CTE completer requirement. That's known as a dual completer, so you can do that as well. But as we restart the program, we're going to have an AM and a PM session. It's all going to be focused on the EMT certification and licensure. And for those of you that are seniors, I know just in communication, whether it be by phone or email, we've had students indicate they want to go into the Coast Guard, into the Armed Services, or they just want to go into a career in the medical field. And so they want to be able to use this as part of their college application. And then other cases, we have students that really want to go into fire and rescue, which is great. And that's what this partnership is all about. And so we want to make sure that we're helping you career-wise get on the right track and move in the right direction. So this is part of our high school course bulletin. And when you take a look at the course code and what you're going to want to schedule for in the 2022-23 school year, it is the Fire and Rescue EMT triple period course, meaning it's half of your school day, okay? And so it's important that you register for PGS 2017, the A and B, okay? And the way it's designed is the students that are in the lower part of the county, the 16 high schools, they will be going to the academy in the morning from 8 to 10:15. And then those students that are in the upper part of the county, and I'll show you which high schools those are in just a minute, but it aligns with how we do our other regional and countywide programs. So like with Edison and Seneca Valley being our two regional hubs, the high schools basically from Magruder up would go to Seneca. The high schools from Magruder down would go to Edison. And so that's how we did our scheduling. And when you look at the schedule, it's going to align with MCPS. So if there is by chance a delayed opening, if there's a closing, or if there's a half-day schedule, in my planning and conversation with Chief Sanford, what they'd like to do is keep the AM and the PM sessions in sync with each other. So when they set up a scenario or they're doing a drill, they want the AM and the PM to be at the same time. So in the event we have a half-day delayed opening, there will not be class here at the academy. And what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to go to your home high school, and you can, and that's where I'll talk with the high school principals and kind of coordinate. Do you go to the media center? Do you go to the counseling office? Do you go to the cafeteria? Your high school will be able to let you know where you'll be able to go in the event we do not have class here at the academy. And to be available too, because, you know, let's say there is opportunity for some theory through Zoom on like a half-day schedule, or you're practicing for an exam coming up. Because that's the other part, like when we get further into talking about the EMT certification, only one part of it is the practical part. The other part is actually demonstrating that you can safely respond to emergency situations. So we'll get into that a little bit further in the presentation, but the 16 high schools that are going to be coming in the morning, it's the Northeast Consortium, Down County Consortium schools, everything basically from Magruder down, and then the PM schools will be coming in the afternoon. So anything from Gaithersburg to Clarksville, they'll all be coming in the afternoon. Transportation is provided in the PM. This was when the program originally started, and I met with transportation this week. They are able to provide transportation in the afternoon session. Students that aren't at one of these high schools here that are identified, you will need to coordinate your own transportation to and from the academy. And there is a ride-on bus stop option. It's actually route number 58. It's right outside. You may have seen it when you were pulling into the parking area. So that is an option as well, and MCPS students can use their ID and use the ride-on bus for free. Now, as far as the program goes, there are a couple of expectations and requirements to complete between now and when school starts. I'll let both our captains explain that.
So everybody's going to need to get a physical before they start. Chief Sanford will be in touch with everybody who does register for the class. There will be a orientation on August 25th, and before that date, she'll be in touch with the parents of the registered students to help schedule the physical exam. It's very similar to your sports physical. You'll go to our fire rescue occupational medical services and get a complete physical from the county doctors there. We just want to make sure that everybody is fit to be able to participate in the activities that we're participating in as EMTs operating in the environment that we're operating in. So she'll be in touch with everybody who's registered to go ahead and schedule that, and that'll be scheduled to be completed before the orientation on the 25th of August. There is a brief background check. In order to be a certified EMT in the state of Maryland, there is legal requirements that fall under that, that you have to have pretty much a clean legal record to become a certified EMT. So there is an initial background check that is done. That'll also be coordinated with Captain Wheeler and Chief Sanford to make sure that that gets done for you guys on a timely manner. And then, and as I said, that'll be communicated with Chief Sanford. Uniforms. So you will be issued a uniform as part of the program. We'll coordinate that through the orientation and through the first few days of school to get your uniforms. There is no cost to the families for the uniforms. That is provided through the program. And it is really, really important, the next thing that we're going to say about uniforms. We are allowed to wear uniforms. The students will be allowed to wear uniforms at the firehouse as they are riding for their calls as part of the program, and they'll be allowed to wear their uniforms here at the academy. We are not allowed to wear uniforms as students anywhere else. That includes in transportation to and from the academy. And the reason for that, there's twofold reason for that. The first is that we do not want to give the public the misconception that you are a certified provider that can help them out in an emergency, all right? Something happens in a public venue, and we immediately look for somebody in uniform, and we're looking for them to be able to help us out, all right? Well, you guys aren't there yet. We'll have you there by the end of the school year, but you're not there yet, and so we don't want to be putting you in an inappropriate situation where people think that you are capable of helping out in a situation that you're not. The second part of that is that, as Sean said at the beginning of this, we are operating in a live environment, which means we're going to be operating around blood. We're going to be operating around other body fluids. We're going to be operating around people who are sick, right? We don't want you bringing that into your car, bringing that onto the school bus, bringing it home to your families. All right? We want you to be able to protect yourselves and protect your families the same way we do when Captain Schaefer and I go to and from work. All right? So But we'll have uniforms for you, but we expect you to come in civilian attire. Locker rooms will be provided. Cleaning facilities will be provided for those uniforms, but we expect you to come and leave in civilian attire so that, we don't present a misrepresentation to the public, and we're protecting you and your families as you're coming to and from the academy. Captain Schaefer, did I miss anything there?
Nope, that's spot on. Training academy policies. All the stuff that he and I are bound to, if you're going to transit through this training academy, you're bound to them also. Code of conducts, academic integrity, all pretty much standard common sense stuff. When you get into the program, we'll go over that stuff with you. Remember that your integrity and your reputation is your most important tradable resource. So when you come here, you're representing the schools, you're representing us, and you're representing your families. Remember that when you show up to school or you show up to the academy, you represent your family, and that's very important. So we'll go over all that when you guys come to the building. And I'm pretty sure that Chief Sanford, who we didn't introduce, Chief Sanford is in charge of this entire facility. She's a really wonderful mentor and a good leader, and she's somebody that I would be pleased to have my kids work for and be mentored by. And then we have Captain Shelley Wheeler, who is not here tonight, but she is the program director. And then it's Master Firefighter Luis Beltray, right?
Firefighter Luis Beltray. Sean, did you want us to get into the instructors now?
Sure.
So we're really excited for who we've got coming up for you guys to be teaching this class. So Firefighter Luis Beltray will be the lead instructor. He's got about 10 years on with the fire department. In his non-fire department job, he is a youth counselor with his church's youth group, and he's extremely excited to be coming up here to work with your students in a mentoring role. Extremely energetic personality. We have to do interim evaluations of our instructors. I was doing Luis's, and where are my students at? Raise your hands nice and high. If you're a student, come on, raise your hands nice and high. All right, keep your hand up if you have sat through a Zoom session during COVID that was just absolutely the most boring thing you have ever sat through in your life, right? That will not happen with Firefighter Beltray. When I was doing his evaluation, it was on a Zoom session, and he is so engaging. You guys will not have a dull moment the entire time. He's going to keep you guys just as energetic as he is about learning how to be an EMT. As Captain Schaefer said, Captain Wheeler is a 20-year captain with the department. She's on our urban search and rescue team. She's been up here 2 years, putting together numerous training programs up here for the career and volunteer firefighters, and now she's moved over to helping to make sure that this program for your students is running smoothly. So.
Hey, Joe, we had a question from the online group, and
yes.
I don't know if a parent or student, but they were asking if they would learn how to use Narcan.
So yes, as part of the EMT program, that will be part of the curriculum to learn how to use Narcan on somebody with a suspected opioid overdose.
Joe, what's Narcan do?
So Narcan is a medication that we use to reverse the effects of opioid drugs. So heroin, fentanyl, all the things you hear about in the news, that medication reverses those drugs. And so somebody who is overdosed from that, who's not breathing, that drug medication reverses that so that they can start breathing again.
Drugs are a very slippery slope, and anybody can fall into that trap. In my career, I've seen 8-year-old kids overdosed on cocaine, and I've seen 90-year-old women that were in nursing homes that inadvertently overdosed on illicit opioids, not just the drugs they gave. It's everywhere, and it is an epidemic. So that's one of the kinds of things that we're encountering as a society. And if you're interested in taking the next step forward, you will not fix all these problems. But also remember that every single patient, every single person you encounter as a trainee, and then potentially as a provider someday, was at one point somebody's kid, okay? So you'll encounter wealthy, poor. You'll encounter people that have opportunity and people who don't. The thing that you have to remember is when you're out there as a trainee or as a captain, a battalion chief, whomever. This is a service industry, and you have to make yourself a servant to the people in our community. So when you encounter those folks, the best thing about this job from my perspective is I get to absolve myself of having to worry about or think about all of the social connotations that may be attached to a human. All you have to do is be a servant to them. Doesn't matter if they're a diabetic that's squeezed between the toilet and the wall at 3 o'clock in the morning, or somebody that has overdosed unintentionally on some drug or intentionally, or done something to get themselves into trouble. The beauty is when you respond, you'll respond with a set of tools. And there's a set of tools that Captain Hayunga and his group are going to teach you. But then the best set of tools you're going to have is your brain and your heart. And all of these people that you encounter, whether you're administering Narcan or you're cardioverting them because their heart is in an unusual rhythm, remember that you are a servant to them. And it's a wonderful transaction because it absolves you from all these other things that are happening in the world. So remember that this EMTB program and then the firefighter program, they're skills and they're tools. But the best skill that you're going to get out of this, if you do it right, is problem solving and critical thinking. And a little bit of empathy, right? Which is what we could all use. I think our society all needs, we need better critical thinking, we need a little better skills, and we need, maybe a little bit of empathy, right? But watch the people around you, okay? There are a lot of really great mentors and people that you'll encounter. You'll encounter good and bad, but find yourself a couple good mentors like Joe, right? He won't steer you wrong, and you'll use your intuition. And the other thing, since we have you as a captive audience, when you're a trainee or whether you're a seasoned 30-year professional, when you are out in any environment, if your gut is telling you something is awry, pay attention to that gut. And just because you're trainees or you're cadets doesn't mean that your brain and your guts don't count. You may be the only person to see something for a minute, so talk. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, all right. And then the other part too is bringing a change of clothes. So there is a locker room, there is showers, but I think you guys both covered.
I think we hit this pretty.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Attendance. So this is probably the most important. And when we talk about industry credential, industry certification, it takes time to learn these skills. It takes time to learn how to assess a situation. And part of this training is being to class on time, being at the academy on time, and then when it comes time to go out in the field, you're basically taking that full ownership and responsibility. And if by chance you start to miss a class or two, you have to communicate with your instructors. You have to let them know. We all have, different circumstances that may happen at any given time. Work with your instructor. But if by chance you're not coming to class, you're not communicating with your instructor, then it may be grounds to be removed from the program. Okay, so keep that in mind. Attendance is very important. Did you guys want to?
The EMTB program is a big program. It's a big thing to bite off at any age. And if you start to fall behind, it is hard to catch up. It's really hard to catch up. So, and don't fall behind. Just don't. You have to decide you're going to pass.
It's almost probably the best, what's very similar is taking an advanced placement class or like a IB, International Baccalaureate class. It's basically a college level course that you as a student in high school have an opportunity to access. So traditionally students, well, I should say adults, traditionally adults with a high school diploma or GED would be able to access this opportunity. But because of the partnership MCPS has with the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, you're able to access this as a junior or senior in high school. So you could compare this to going to Montgomery College and taking a class at the college.
This is a 6-credit class at the colleges.
Yeah.
All right. So this is an AP class. When you take this at University of Maryland, you take this at Frederick Community College, Montgomery College. This is a college level class with a college level curriculum. Sean's job is to tell you what the rules are. My job is to tell you that if you're not making it to class, you're not going to make it through the class. And at the end of the class is a certification exam. It is a state level and a national level certification exam, and those examination standards are not negotiable. Those are set by the state and federal laws that govern what we do. So, I'm not saying that to scare anybody. I'm saying that to understand what you're getting into, that it's a high level of work to get through the class. We will work with you, all right? If we're missing class because of excused reasons, we're going to do everything possible to make sure that you get caught up and that you get to where you need to be to continue on with the class. But if you're missing class for unexcused reasons, it's going to become very hard very quickly for us to be able to catch you guys back up.
Sweat equity.
Yeah. And it's the state of Maryland and national. So like if I were a student going through EMT and I wanted to relocate outside of Maryland, I could take this certification with me?
Well, Joe and I were actually talking about New Zealand. You can take it all the way to New Zealand. The National Registry is recognized in all states, and I think District of Columbia does their own Department of Health thing, but the world has gone National Registry. It's a portable thing, and you can use it to leverage into other things. The best thing that I ever got to do in the fire department was become a paramedic. It opened up doors that I didn't even know were there for me, and it also allowed me to. I had to be an EMTB for a while, right? And different people need to be an EMTB for different durations. But the best thing I got out of my fire service career is, and maybe this is a little hubris, but I feel like now there's very few rooms or scenarios that I can't walk into and come out alive and generally solve the puzzle. You take it down to its little, to these little, the little pieces that comprise the problem. And you start solving the little pieces. When you get here, you're new EMT, it's going to seem really intense. It's going to seem overwhelming. And then after a while, you'll start to learn, it's like, all right, it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of little tiny things, and I can solve these to direct the solution. But it is a thing that will, it does open up doors. Joe and I have made a lifestyle out of it. And it doesn't have to end in fire rescue. It can go to other places too. The EMTB and the paramedic credentials, now we're finding that, especially with the staffing shortages, these people are finding their ways into other clinical settings and hospitals and operating theaters, and and you'll learn too that the kind of like in the Navy, a medical corpsman, when they're in the field, they do all sorts of interventions, like invasive things, chest tubes, all sorts of stuff, and then they come back stateside and they go to Walter Reed and, well, I can only change bedpans. They're not national registered. National registered paramedic goes into hospital settings and they're doing a whole lot more stuff and starting IVs, and our paramedics and even our EMTs are inserting semi-advanced airways. So it's a credential that's evolving. The EMTB credential has certainly evolved since I first took it many years ago. The anatomy and physiology, all these things that Joe will tell you all about, they taken in their totality, it's a lot of stuff. But remember, what you're learning is critical thinking. You're taking it one paragraph at a time. And then Joe will get Luis and all these other people to help you arrange those things. And then, a year later, you're realizing, like, man, this was really complicated in the beginning. Now it's all starting to stride.
And so you're basically taking a college level course. And as a student, you're going to be here 2 hours a day, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And you're going to have exams. You're going to have a practical part where you're in the classroom where you are now. And you're going to be out in the training area too, right? So there is the opportunity to do scenarios. A couple weeks ago, Chief Sanford gave me a tour of the campus. And there's a metro train. There's a commercial storefront inside building. They have car area there, and we're right next to the police academy too. So there's a track, right? So
Stay off the track.
stay off the track. But
They're not good drivers. Cops crash things every single day and don't get in trouble. We crashed one fire truck, right? Oh, yeah.
Well, and they were bringing this, so what's the fire truck called where there's a driver in the back of the truck?
A tiller truck?
Yeah. There were two tilt trucks? Tilt trucks. So there were two tilt trucks coming in. I was just inside the one building, but you have it's almost the length of a semi, right? So you have a driver in the front and a driver in the rear. And I watched them maneuver it without any cars and without any like lights or any kind of, situation. It was just in the parking lot, and I was like, wow. Like, I couldn't imagine being the driver on the back side of the tilt truck, having to maneuver that with 3-4 lanes of traffic jams. Like, I give you guys a lot of credit for what you do. I mean,
Well, don't give us too much, because we got here on the backs of a lot of other people, people that did the same thing that we'd like to help you guys do. And driving a tiller truck is a culmination of, it should be at least 10 years driving experience, should be. Right, Lieutenant Peak? Right? Should be. And these things, they become more or less intuitive to you. That effortless, seemingly very fluid movement that you saw in a tiller truck is the kind of effortless, seemingly fluid movement that you're going to show patience and inspire confidence and followership in people while you usher them through their bad time into your ambulance to the hospital. And maybe you haven't actually installed a whole lot of medical intervention, but what you've done is you've stabilized them, which is really important to people.
And this here, could you guys talk a little bit about what it means to be a team lead and what that requirement is for students?
Absolutely. So we'll have the course that we go through with the quizzes and the modular exams, all right? And as we finish up the course, well, about halfway through the course, we'll start sending you guys out to the different firehouses to begin to do these team leads. So what does that mean? That means that you have passed enough of the class that we feel confident in your ability to begin to treat live patients. Right? And you guys are all going to be there. All right? It's going to take us some time to get you there, but we're not going to put you in that scenario until we know that you're confident to be able to do that. All right? And so as part of the course, as part of the certification exam, and as part of obtaining that credential, you're going to be required to be the team lead on 20 calls. So that means that you will be in the back of an ambulance with an already certified EMT, and you will be doing all of the patient care. You'll be doing the assessment. You'll be directing the care. You'll be deciding which treatments they get. You'll be giving them those treatments. All right? You're going to have somebody right beside you mentoring you the entire time, making sure that you're doing everything that we need you to do. But you're going to be acting in that role of being the actual EMT. All right? So that is part of not just our program, but that is part of the state requirements to obtain that certification credential. All right? We're going to be sending you out to the firehouses. So as Sean will tell you, you need to have permission slips from the parents to go to the firehouse and interact in the firehouse writing these calls. All right? And then additionally, we encourage people to join one of the local volunteer fire rescue departments. So there are 19 local volunteer fire rescue departments: Kensington Volunteer Fire Department, Tacoma Park Volunteer Fire Department, Damascus Volunteer Fire Department. They are volunteer firehouses around the county. We operate together, career and volunteer staffing in Montgomery County. So you'll probably see a lot of the faces that you see here at the academy, you'll see again out in the firehouse. And if you choose to, this is absolutely optional. This is not a requirement, but we do encourage it because it will help you to progress through the course, is that we encourage you to join one of these local fire departments where you can get more familiarization of what firehouse life is like, and also get more experience that will go towards your credentialing and your certification than just the time that we're able to provide as part of this course. All right? We have a certain number of hours that we're going to send you out to these firehouses as part of the program, but the more experience you can get, the better off you're going to be as you progress through the course. So we do encourage people, if they want to and are willing to join one of these volunteer departments.
So this is to the students, to the young people. Find yourself mentors, plural. And as important it is to find mentors, it's equally, if not more important, to allow yourself to be mentated. led, mentored, thank you, all right? Fireman, not English teacher, all right? You got to be open to people showing you the way. And there is no one way. You know, I grew up around the volunteer fire department, and now I'm looking down the barrel of 45 years old. And it is the people that I encountered along the way that quietly and confidently and peacefully ushered me places, right? They helped to uncover things in me I didn't realize I had because I was little, right? And I'm 45 years old now. I got Joe and I got Chief Sanford, and they're doing the same thing, just at a more of a geriatric pace, right? But allow yourself to be mentored. Super important. Sometimes there's a time to be quiet and listen, and then there's a time to talk to show us what you've learned. But remember, you got to find people. Not everybody's going to come and say, "Hey, I'm going to mentor you." You actually sometimes have to go to people and say, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" And use those words, right? Whether it's at school, you're taking a pre-calc or an algebra class or geometry or English or whatever, right? Go to teachers, go to people. There are a lot of us that have stepped forward, and you'll step forward in this world too. Eventually, you will be the mentor to somebody. If you haven't mentored somebody in your life by the time you retire, you've done it all wrong, right? Let yourself be mentored. Find mentors, plural.
You know, and to add to that too, something I've learned as being a principal in Montgomery County and then also being at central office, these past 2 years I've had an opportunity to talk with students like in our internship and apprenticeship program, and I ask them, why do you take the time to do an internship? And they'll say, one, well, I want to build my resume, but two, I want to get a letter of recommendation for whatever program I'm going into. So if you plan to go into a college program, if you plan to go into the Coast Guard or the Armed Services, or let's say you want to become a registered nurse, well, guess what? That mentor can write a letter of recommendation on your behalf, and they can speak to the lessons learned. And that's something too, like in school, like I think in school we spend a lot of time teaching to the test, right? Well, when I was growing up, my parents would always say, well, wait till you get out into the real world. Wait till you see what the real world has for you. And I never understood what that meant. But I think what I learned over the years is that sometimes you take the test first, then you learn the lesson. The quicker you learn the lesson and the quicker you're able to navigate situations like this, that's part of maturing, that's part of growing up. So have that mentor. Make those mistakes, do what you can, learn as much as you can, because this is your opportunity to navigate that and to figure that out. So the other part too we want to mention is on August 25th is when you get to tour this campus, this academy. The classroom is only one part. You are going to have all these different opportunities over the course of the next year, or if you're a junior, 2 full school years, where half of your day is basically on this campus, okay? So on August 25th, from 9 to 10:30, mark your calendars. We look forward to having you come back so that you can see the campus, learn about what some of the scenarios are going to be, and ask whatever questions you may have. Now is your opportunity to learn and ask questions and see what this career field can do for you as a student, as a professional. This is your opportunity. So, do you guys have any questions before we go over reminders? Yes. Do you guys have any questions? Yes.
You said it would count for language credits. Would it replace the language credits?
So the question was, the course counts for language credits. I'm repeating for everybody online. The course counts for language credits. Does it replace language credits, Sean?
Yes. So when you look at career and technical education programs in Montgomery County, if you complete the full program from start to finish, so I'll go back here. Right here in the MCPS course bulletin is, I just did a screenshot. But in order to get the credit that you need to count towards graduation and replace the world language requirement, you would have to take Fire and Rescue 1AB and Fire and Rescue 2AB, Emergency Medical Technician. So juniors, this would apply to you. You'd be able to take advantage of this opportunity by making sure you're registered for the EMT course. You have to successfully pass the class. And then in your senior year, you have to do the Fire and Rescue course, pass that class. Then to answer your question, yes, you can. Those credits will count toward graduation. And also you'll notice up there too, in addition to the industry. So here's the other part. So this credit counts towards graduation. You work toward earning an industry certification that traditionally adults with a high school diploma would be able to access. And then also you're going to have an opportunity. You can see on the right here, there are several colleges from Anne Arundel to Frederick Community College where you can get college credit. So if you wanted to transition from MCPS to Montgomery College and access the program they have there, you can do that. So this is the first step in that direction. Yes.
All right, question from the online audience. Lisa asks, is there a selection process involved in getting into the program, or does everyone get in if they pass the physical and the background check?
So in Montgomery County Public Schools, we work with the consortium office, and once you've applied, there's a lottery process and you've been accepted into the program. That's step one. So everyone that I've been communicating with by email has gotten the acceptance letter from the consortium office. Step two would be completing the physical exam, which, as indicated earlier, it's very similar to like if you're going to play a sport, the physical exam you'd have to complete there. So that would be the second step. And then the third step would be the background check.
And one more question from AgWen24, an open-ended question that just says, what about diversity and inclusion?
So I think that's part of our opportunity here as well. When we work closely with Montgomery County Fire and Rescue, we want to be able to better serve our community and serve all individuals. And so this is our opportunity as we partner together, Montgomery County Public Schools, Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. Montgomery County is a very diverse county. And if you speak multiple language, that helps also communicate with individuals, especially in the time of need or in a crisis situation. And so I was talking earlier with Chief Sanford about this, and maybe you guys could elaborate on it, but once you go through the Fire Academy, our partnership and our goal here is to help more students in MCPS go into a career in fire and rescue. So there's opportunity to transition from a program like this cadet opportunity into a career in firefighting where you can earn a living wage and serve the community. And that's really what we want to do. We want to be able to represent, support you and your career goals, and support our community as well.
So there is demand in all facets of our job markets nowadays, right? And I can tell you there's a whole lot of demand for altruistic, authentic servant firefighters. We'd like to hire them. We'd like them to be you. We'd like you to aspire into that. And when it comes to diversity and inclusion, there's a lot of cliche things that we say, right? Hey, we're all wearing blue, right? Or we all bleed red, or all that good stuff. What it comes down to is stuff I said before. Remember, when you go on calls, you're dealing with a human. And the best part about this job is if you're smart about it and you're like spiritual and cerebral about it, which is something you got to actually do, kids, right? You got to expend that energy to do that. You're dealing with a human. And it doesn't matter where they come from or what happened. All you got to do is be kind and do the things that Joe teaches you how to do. Because also remember, too, that we all walk into this world with preconceptions about ourselves. We're trying to fill a role for ourselves. We want to be something, be somebody. mark ourselves against the rest of the world. But another lesson that you guys need to learn, which we need to remind ourselves, is if you see somebody that's down, and down's a metaphor in this context, right? We see people who are down because they get hit riding their bike, or they have a stroke, or they've overdosed, or they get into an altercation and they get battered, or their house catches fire, or their kid's missing, right? Bad things, right? It's the common denominator. When people are in crisis, that is a common denominator. And I want you guys to have this come back in your head one day. When you encounter these people, whether they're in the fire department, whether you're in the fire department, or some other walk of life, ask yourself this question. If you had all the same opportunity sets as that person that is lying there bleeding out, or has, as far as you can tell, willfully taken drugs and put themselves in a bad situation, would you have done any better? That is an impossible question to answer. So here's what you do with that. You absolve yourself of even asking the question, and you put yourself into a servant role, and that's where inclusion happens. That's where you're really going to grow as a person. It's something you're going to have to remind yourself of every single day, week, month, year event that you live in your life. And we're all on that same path. It just so happens that now we're finally talking about it. And I've got you guys a little bit of a captive audience here, right? Because this is something that, you know, we do care about, and we do indoctrinate into people because we all need to be open to being mentored. So it used to be drive fast in the fire truck. If you got there without crashing, it was a good run. That was awesome. There was blood everywhere. And that was fun for a little while. But then, why do you keep doing it? Well, you do it because I actually intervened not just in that person's day, but I made it a little better for them, right? And, you know, in the final analysis, we've all been, you know, as you grow older, there are going to be these moments where you look back and you're semi-reflective. Like, man, am I doing the right stuff? Am I being good to my family? Do I have a family? Can I be a part of one? And I've done that. I know Joe's done that. And I can tell you from my humble experience, I've looked back on that in some pretty dire times in my life, and I've been really grateful and pleased. Now, when you are done and you're 87 years old and you're done with whatever you're doing because your body has been used up, hopefully, if you can look back and reflect and say, I've done more good than not good, that's a win, right? Your life and your day is going to be a spectrum of errors and mistakes from which you work to recover, and it's how gracefully you recover from them that matters. And the friends and the colleagues and the good things that happen to you and with you along the way. So diversity, super important. I was born here. I was born at Holy Cross Hospital in 1977. That's too much PMI for a web stream, but it's public record, right? I got to go train in the hospital that I was born in. And I got to run calls in a neighborhood that I lived in when I was little. And, you know, a lot of us still live close by. I don't live in the county anymore because I got married and moved away, and it was too expensive for me to live here. And now I've got all these children, and we can't come back because they're already in public schools. But the neat thing about what I've gotten to experience, especially through COVID, right? When we did all these vaccination clinics and we found ourselves that we had masks on, and we had to look each other in the eye. And when we're on calls nowadays, we have to wear masks, regardless of the calls, right? So we look each other in the eyes, and it's been kind of a neat thing in the fire service specifically because I got to look you in the eye. And I've got to take a moment to listen a little more carefully because your voice is muffled, right? We're on the right track. And this is why good gentlemen like this are reaching out to good kids like you. We need you to think in terms of this, right? How do I bring people in? How do I find these common denominators? How do I build community? Community isn't something you just get to be a part of. Community is something you actually have to exert energy to build, and you have to put out your energy to be a part of it. And, you know, regardless of what happens with your application process here, whether you decide to come and work with the Cadet program, I hope you take those things away with you, whatever walk of life you find yourself striding into. And there's going to be a bunch of different walks of life. This is one of them you could do. And it's a neat one to be a part of. And it doesn't have to be the terminus one, but it can be a differentiator and a way for you to get into something, open up your eyes, and see what kind of stuff is out there for you.
So for the parents out there, I can't think of an even better environment to actually truly experience diversity within your community and culture than sending your kid to an environment where you are living with other people for 10 hours as cadets, for 24 hours as volunteers, or if they choose to continue on with this career. You're actually living with people, interacting with people, truly experiencing the differences within the culture and experiencing that diversity. And so that's just going to come with the program and with the process, especially if they get into volunteering and pursuing this as a career beyond that.
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Two, maybe three questions.
Sure.
So I'm looking at a slide there. All right, so as a junior, they're to register for fire and rescue 2,
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then they do the rescue 1 the following year as a senior?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a little bit confused.
So I'm just repeating the question for everybody online. So the question was for everybody online, as a junior, you are applying for Fire and Rescue 2, and then as a senior, you would apply as Fire Rescue 1. Sean, correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but because of COVID, we had to halt the program. Normally we do, juniors do fire, seniors do EMT, but because of COVID, we had to halt the program. So as we're bringing it back, everybody's going to be in the same classes together. So junior and seniors take EMT this year. The ones that are juniors this year will take fire next year. The incoming juniors will take fire next year, and then we'll be back to junior year fire, senior year EMT.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So my second and third question. Second, the team lead. What's the timeline that the student would go and do that? Are we talking a semester? Are we talking a year?
So halfway through the course is broken up into 6 modules, all right? Halfway through the course, when you pass the Modular 3 exam, that exam is on patient assessment. So you have to pass that exam before you're allowed to start not independently, but to be allowed to be in that team lead role, right? So once that occurs, whether it's through the volunteer firehouse that you joined, or whether it's through some of the hours that we have incorporated into the course, you will be allowed to begin those team leads. You cannot sit for the state certification exam until you complete those team leads, all right? So we will work with the students, right? We have a certain number of hours built into the program to get them that during the program, and if for some reason they don't get it within the time allotted at the firehouse, we will work with the students, we'll work with the school to make sure that they can get the rest of those team leads. We don't like to do it because it's not the same level of experience, but worst case scenario, they will accept a certain amount of simulated team leads within the classroom. We really try to stay away from that because we want your student to get the best experience possible out of this, but there are avenues that we can pursue if they get towards the end of class and find that they haven't gotten all of those team leads. Captain, they had a question online?
Okay, question from, I think, Onx, or ONNX. I go to Paint Branch, and I'm a rising senior. How would I be able to get into this?
So for those of you that I have been emailing with and communicating, you've been accepted into the program through the consortium application process. So that started this past fall. November 4th was the cutoff. Students completed the application process. The consortium office sent notification that you were accepted into the program. And then we have a rolling application until the program is at capacity. So just looking at our current enrollment numbers, we do have a few seats remaining, or available, I should say. So if you're interested in applying to the program and you haven't gotten that acceptance notification from our consortium office, that's where you could email me directly, and I'll be able to help you with next steps.
Sir, I believe you had a question in the back?
Yeah, I'll just take it up offline, because I just think, I think there's some questions that need to be asked.
Okay.
Okay.
Another question from the online group from Anna Nordgold. Is there a parking lot where my son can park?
So there is a parking lot here on the facility. It gets crowded very quickly with the volume of classes that we have here. Whether or not the cadet program students will be allowed, I think that's something that is being discussed between you and Chief Sanford at this time.
Yes. So, yeah, part of students accessing the program is providing transportation to and from, especially in the AM session. So that's where I will talk with Chief Sanford, and we'll come up with a agreement on how we can approach that, and then I'll communicate by email what the parking agreement is. Yes.
So I'm a bit confused about the application process because we were told that the cadet program was not available. And then when we met with my son's counselor, she didn't know about it. We actually found out from my husband, who's a firefighter, so we didn't know that there was even a registration process in September. The first we heard of it was the email that we received a few weeks ago. So there are already people who are signed up for this, and you said there's only a few spaces available?
Correct, yeah. So in Montgomery County, we have 52 career and technical education programs, and our opportunities that are county-wide, like Fire Academy or programs at Edison or Seneca Valley, we have an application process in place. And so if by chance you missed that communication or you weren't able to get that in the fall, I would be glad to work with you moving forward, because we do have seats available in the program, and we have a rolling enrollment until the program is at capacity. So if you are interested, I would be glad to have a conversation with you regarding next steps. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
So my son's a senior, and I think I keep missing, if you're a senior, what happens? You take the EMT, and then the next year you will go to Montgomery College if he passes the certifications, and to take the second portion of it, because everybody's starting off this year as I'm missing what happens if you're a senior.
Well, yeah, so in the ideal situation, like if COVID never happened, students ideally in their sophomore year would have applied. They would have been aware of the opportunity, started the program junior year, and had 2 years to complete it. Well, unfortunately, with COVID and the impact it had, and the fact that we were virtual for an entire school year, we weren't able to operate the EMT program. And as we've kind of talked through in this evening's presentation, it's important for you to be in person, to have real-world experiences. It's a profession that is difficult to do in a virtual environment. So with the impact of COVID and the program not being able to run, we have to restart the program, and this is our starting point. And so we are opening the opportunity up to students in their junior and senior year, and we hope that students in their senior year are able to complete the EMT certification. And then during the course, we can talk about next steps and where you might want to go after high school. Montgomery College being one of those options. And they do have a fire and rescue program that you can continue to earn college credit and an associate's degree. And so we will go over those opportunities with students. It's just, we have to start somewhere, and this is our starting point.
Can I add something real quick? Can I add something to?
Sure.
So I think also, if I'm parent to parent, what I think we're trying to discern is what's next for my young man after he takes this. So here's another pathway. Senior gets into this, takes EMTB, gets an EMTB credential. Awesome, right? If you join a fire department around here, odds are we're going to make you take it again, but as a recruit, okay? The cadet program is in its natural incarnation when we don't have COVID. is supposed to loosely mirror what we do with a recruit class, which would be paid young firefighters that come in to work here full-time as their profession. And they come in and they do EMTB, they do firefighter 1-2, they do some vehicle machinery stuff, hazmat stuff, all these credentials, all the things that we need them to have in order for them to be turnkey employees on a fire engine, fire truck, ambulance, medic unit, right? So because of COVID, everything just got derailed. The nice thing about this program is if you do it right, you leave with an EMTB credential, a Maryland State one, and, oh, by the way, a National Register one, portable anywhere. The next thing, if he was looking for a job in fire rescue, or if you got hooked into it, if it turned out this is something you liked, I would say that even if you're graduating high school, if you were to affiliate with one of the volunteer fire departments here, you'd have access to all these classes, right, that you could accumulate real live credentials that are portable through a thing called pro boarding, portable to any fire department, most any fire department in the United States, right? And classes that are, offered through the National Fire Academy and all this. The other thing that I wish I knew when I was 18, which I didn't know, is that the Maryland Department of Higher Education will reimburse you for an undergraduate degree in an emergency service related field. So what that means is if you are a firefighter, career volunteer in the state of Maryland, and you can get into an emergency services program or a fire program or a paramedic program someplace, you have to front the money, but they'll pay you back for your tuition and your books. Wow, right? And there's a lot of opportunities. Now, I tried to use that to pay for a school outside the state. They nixed that, right? But if you're a Maryland kid, right, that's a smoking deal, all puns intended, right? Okay, and that's it's all discoverable online. And then if you elect to come into the program and you get into it, talk to your mom, talk to Luis, firefighter Beltry. I keep thinking he's a master. He'll be a master eventually. He's a really, really good human being and a good leader. So you can talk to him. But does that answer your question? Maybe the next step.
Okay,
What the next?
Here in the junior, and I was junior.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what happens to the seniors? So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Well, what happens is hopefully he passes the EMTB, does a good job, makes a really good impression, which he already is. He seems pretty attentive, right? And then he starts applying to career departments if that's what he wants. But also with his friends, okay? Remember, too, that it's important if you join the fire service to be proficient in your job, to take classes, to get good at it, right? But never, ever forget, the one thing that the world cannot take away from you is what you put inside your brain. So as you join the fire department, go into the military, decide to go do other things, make sure you get educated in something, because the world will change on you in a heartbeat, and you've got to have a plan B, C, and D. Start planning those things yesterday. You're not behind the 8 ball. You guys are doing good. But remember that, train, put your guts into it, and the person that can keep their butt in the chair will get a degree, and they will get a credential.
And to that point, I think as we restart the program, part of the opportunity will be for students to learn about what options are career-wise, especially as they get closer to graduating. And right now we're here at the academy where we are here for an information session, but there was another training going on right below on the first level. And so at any given time, there's trainings taking place. So even after graduation, there's trainings on this campus that students are able to access. So we'll make sure when I communicate with Chief Sanford that we integrate that into the course and the program so both juniors and seniors are aware of what options are available. Yeah, you're welcome. Did you have a question?
No, I believe you answered it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
One more on.
Sean, we got one more online.
Okay.
Okay, so online from Marcy Nadler, forgive the pronunciation. Sorry, I got distracted. Our son is in 10th grade, but was invited to this meeting. Does he have to wait until his junior year to begin this course?
Yes.
Answer is yes, ma'am.
So yes, the program is available. The program is available for students going into their junior and senior year. If a student has an interest, and now's a good time to be looking at options. If you are a sophomore, then this fall, you would want to apply to the Fire Science Academy before November 4th, okay? And I'm looking at our time. We've gone over a little bit, but it's totally fine. I feel like we've had some really good questions, and we want to make sure that we're able to answer any questions you have. So here's what we'll do. In closing, I'll go over our reminders. And for those of you that may have questions, I'm going to stay a little bit longer, and I'll be available. You have my card that has my phone number and email. I'm available. I'll be your point of contact for MCPS to answer any questions you have. The first reminder is with registering for the course. And so when you take a look at the schedule with your counselor, for any student that is in the lower part of the county at those 16 high schools that we identified, you're going to want to work with your counselor to schedule fire EMT in the morning and then all your academic classes in the PM. If you're up county, then all of your academic classes would be done first thing in the morning, then you would come to the academy in the afternoon. And I'm also going to be communicating this information to counselors as well, so that they are up to date on the latest information, and they can work with you. And if there's any questions, just connect me and your counselor together, and we'll figure out the best way to work with your schedule. The second reminder is that we have our orientation, you will be getting information from Chief Sanford on the physical and the background check. So pay attention to your email, because Chief Sanford has to communicate to you when you can do your physical, because she has all the other members that are applying to and have to, what do they have, like 1,500?
We got, so it's through our occupational medical services. We've got 1,500 firemen who need to get regular physicals, and we're scheduling your students in between those other employees. So she has to have an intricate role in getting those schedules together. So she'll be in contact with you guys so that that can be scheduled accordingly.
Yeah, so pay attention, look for your emails. Chief Sanford will be communicating to you by email. And then mark your calendar, Thursday, August 25th. That's when our day is for the orientation, for you to tour the academy, see all the different aspects of the academy and what you'll be doing. And that being said, we're going to close out the evening, and we are now finished. And I will be available for any questions you have, whether it be now or by email or phone. Thank you.
Thank you.